Okay, this is the Q&A for the first day of coding on Handmade Hero. And what I would like you guys to do, if you can, is put @cmuratori in any questions that you have so that I can see them clearly on the IRC, because there's a lot of chat that goes on there, and I want to be able to see basically what's going on. I want to be able to see the direct questions so I can answer them. All right, let's start with Rysos. C. Muratori, can you show how you added the Handmade Hero directory to the path? You went a bit fast during the main stream. Absolutely, I can. So let's go back into, if you remember, the place that I decided to do that was inside Handmade MISC. There was a thing called shell.bat. Inside shell.bat, basically it's this line right here. So what this line does, and I agree this is a little confusing, and part of the reason I'm actually going to be going a little slower than I went tonight in future episodes, because honestly, I didn't want to spend a huge amount of time in all of this drudge work. I just kind of want to show, here's how you do it, off you go. Because once we're done with it, we're done with it. So yeah, I didn't belabor some of these points. But basically the way that it works is, if you are out here in the command prompt and you hit set, just the word set, and you hit return, you will get all of the environment variables that are set. And those are variables that are local to this shell, that basically anything can use. So for example, here is one called winder. It's winder equals c:\windows. And what happens is, if I type in % the name winder, that variable, right, and then another %, so I enclose it by %, it will substitute in the value of that environment variable in place of this what I typed here, right? So when I hit return, it actually durs whatever winder is, right? It does that dir, okay? So path, if I wanted to reference what the current setting of path is, that's just %path%. Now in the path, each individual thing to search for is separated by a semicolon, right? So there's this, semicolon this, right? Semicolon this. So what I did is I just said, use the other version of set, right? Because set with nothing lists everything, but set with a variable name actually sets it. So for example, set handmade demo equals w:handmade demo code or something, right? If I do set now, you will notice that handmade demo is actually a variable that's actually set. And that'll live for the lifetime of this shell window. Anyone who wants to now, in fact, echo prints things out. So I could do that, for example. There it is, right? There's my handmade demo. So if I hit %path up here, that means insert the value of path as it stands right now. So all I did here was I just said set path, the variable, equal to itself, but put before it, right, our thing. So basically put us before everyone else. That's all I did. So that line right there is all you need to do to change the path. It's pretty simple. Okay. Let's see here. Where are we? Why is my IRC wigging out here? It's going crazy. Because I started with Rysos. Where did he go? There we go. Okay, sorry about that. Idoiocrazy. I don't know how to pronounce it. Idoiocracy. Do all Windows programs written in C, C++ use WinMain? Does the witness have the same starter code? Yeah, everything basically starts at WinMain. So the witness doesn't. The code for the witness, the platform code for the witness and the platform code for Handmade Hero are very different, actually. The witness is much more sprawling with its platform code. I will be showing you basically the way to write things in a much more lockdown fashion, and that just comes from me having shipped a lot of cross-platform code for a lot of years. I guess I shipped cross-platform for my very first thing that I did professionally was cross-platform. So I keep things like locked down hard. And the witness is not locked down hard. It's a little more typical, I would say, actually, of game code bases where it's not so locked down hard. So we will be doing a much more rigid barrier between the operating system and the game, whereas the witness is much more fluid. Let's see. Using GCC, I compiled without having to specify user32.lib. What is the difference here between Microsoft's compiler and GCC? I don't know because I don't compile with GCC on Windows, but I would suspect that GCC basically has a different import library scheme. Now, one thing that you should understand is that, well, you know what? Should I break out depends? No. We're going to save this. We're going to save this for tomorrow, basically. So I'll say part of it, but I'm going to say the rest of it tomorrow. We'll say the rest of it. But basically, what you're doing when you're linking with these libraries is you're not actually grabbing real code for the most part. Normally what a library is a library of code that actually links into your executable. That's what a lib normally is. But these are special libs. These are import libs. And what an import lib is it's basically just a jump table in some sense. It's basically just a bunch of stubs such that when you actually get loaded by the operating system, those stub calls will actually get replaced with where the actual jump to the real code for the operating system that gets mapped, into your memory space. GCC, which I'm assuming you mean MingW's GCC on Windows, may have a different convention for how it does the import libs. So it may just already have them all, and you may just link with all of them all the time or something. I don't know. I'd have to go look for GCC. But what actually happens at the end is always the same, which is that when Windows loads, it has basically a dynamic link patching system that goes through your executable and patches the places that it needs to point into itself so the calls work. Let's see. What type of milk you're drinking? Almond milk. How do you write a renderer that is hardware accelerated? We will be getting to that way, way, way later. We're actually going to be writing our own renderer first instead of writing a hardware accelerated one so that people can see how to do every last piece of the thing. Can we get your .emacs? And do you always code without line numbers? Yes, I always code without line numbers. And the .emacs file is included in the source, so if you download the source, you get the .emacs with it. This is the most important question. Let's see. Will there be a Sushi Bar Samurai Easter egg in Handmade Hero? Maybe. We'll see. If we use Visual Studio, do we need to tell the linker every library we'll be using like you did, or is this because of the different IDE? If you are inside Visual Studio, I don't know which ones it specifies for you automatically. It probably specifies some for you automatically, but actually, yes, you do. There actually is, if you're building inside there, when you're in the project settings, there actually is I don't know if I can show that easily. Maybe I can in the old Visual Studio. Let's see, can we do anything here? No, we can't. So I'm sorry, I can't really show you very effectively because we don't have an actual project loaded here that will have those settings. But basically inside the settings, there's a linker setting, and it has like additional libs in there, and you have to put the additional libs in there. So I don't suspect you'll have to put user32 because I suspect that's one of the ones they probably add by default for you. But you may have to add some, like if you used WinSock, like if you use the sockets library, you may have to put ones like that, for example. Is there a reason you do not recommend using the developer command prompt shortcuts from the start menu, which set up all the past stuff for you and still let you run batch files? Not particularly. I just wanted to show you how to do it yourself. He's talking about inside here, if you go to, where is Visual Studio 2013? Is it in, why is it 2012? Okay, well, who knows? Inside here, there's usually a thing that lets you actually, you know what, I can't even find it, though, I guess would be the first reason. Well, point being, inside, you should have had, when you installed it, there should have been some way for you to actually get to essentially a launcher that will sort of make a shell for you to use with Visual Studio. But I wanted to show you how to do that stuff yourself so you can make it. Again, Handmade Hero, everything's handmade. We're going to do everything from scratch. That's just how it goes. So if you want to, you can look for that one. There's nothing wrong with that one. I just want people to know what it was actually doing so you could see. How much experience do I have writing audio processing code? Not a whole lot, I guess. I'm not sure what you mean by processing code. If you mean effects and filters and stuff, not too much. Let's see. Will you make a video about setting up a programming environment on Mac Linux as well? Yes. Eventually, we will be doing that as well. And I will basically show you how to set up Emacs on those with a command shell that builds the game, just like I do here. Will it be a 2D or 3D game? It will be a 2D game because I want to basically focus on how to do all of the. I want to focus on the code and not the math. 3D brings in a lot of math. It also brings in a lot of pipeline stuff that is often very transient, that isn't going to last very long. It's going to be different every year. And so I was hoping with 2D, because there are a lot of great 2D games out there. In fact, all my favorite games right now happen to be 2D. I was hoping by going with 2D, I could focus on stuff that was more timeless, stuff that will be good and that you want to know forever, instead of stuff that you'll only want to know like this year. Let's see, 2-hour streams. No, we're only doing 1-hour streams plus a half hour of question and answers, because it seemed like people were not going to be able to handle 2 hours. What style of game are you making an approximate ETA on release? The style of game will be announced probably next week when we sort of get to there. Once we actually get to it, I'll talk more about it. But the ETA on release is completely unknown because, as you may imagine, I have never tried to code something completely live before, so I have no way of ballparking a time. I feel like the fact that I have to explain everything as I go is obviously going to mean that it's going to take a lot longer than it normally would, and I don't know how to predict that. Will the game be Windows only, or will the code be for Mac as well? The code will be for all platforms. Yeah, we'll do a Mac, we'll do a Linux, we'll do a Raspberry Pi. So almost all the game code will be platform independent, but then the other parts will be platform dependent, and I will show you how to make one for each of them. Let's see. Will you do extended live stream exceptions, such as delving into a topic you're so interested in talking about and continue to talk about it even after the live stream is already an hour long? It's probably inevitable. I mean, I'll try to keep that sort of thing to a minimum, and I'll try to keep the streams to basically be stuff that's educational, things that you will want to know. If there's something that I feel that we should really talk about, I'd put it in there. But yeah, we might have some times where we just do kind of tangents and stuff as is important. Can you show the command line parameters that you set in the shortcut? Yes, I can. So the command parameters set in the shortcut, they are here, and I will make them larger for you as well. There's got to be a way to make that bigger. So let's see, liberation mono 11. Okay. So this is what I did. In the shell, I basically did /k, which says start with this, and then I did shell.bat, which is our shell that we wanted, the thing that we wrote together. And that just basically means execute this on startup when you start up. So hopefully that's really clear, and you can see that there. I can also, if you guys want, I can copy this into sort of a notes file so that you'll have it when you get the source tree. So I could do that. Let's put that in shell.bat. So in shell.bat, I'm just making a comment here that says, to run this at startup, use this as your shortcut target. And there we go. So there. Okay. Let's see. What is your favorite Linux distribution and why is it Fedora? A little bit of a leading question. I don't have a favorite Linux distribution. I just run whatever actually runs. I'm running Ubuntu on this laptop that is to my left here that I'm reading the chat on, and that is because it's the only one that would install on it, actually. None of the other ones worked, so at the time that was my only choice. Will I be able to follow you just using Visual Studio 2013 Community Edition? Yes. I mean, Emacs is just for editing code. That's it. And I am using Visual Studio Community Edition 2013. That's what this is. So you will literally, if you just edit your code in there instead of in Emacs, you are good to go. You won't be any different. It's just text. Text is text. Will you be programming infert for alternative controllers like Xbox controllers or arcade sticks? Yes. We will at least do anything that is X input supported, so like Xbox gamepads, because they will probably be the thing we want to use for this game anyway. Should it not be /ZI instead of -ZI in build.bat? So that's an interesting question. So you notice I put -ZI. The reason I put -ci is because I am a Unix-C style person, and dash is how you normally specify command line options in Unix. Windows, you often specify them that way. In the compiler, it reads both, so you can use either one that you want. I guess they were making basic concession to people who are used to other platforms, so you can use a slash or a dash. Either one works. Will the game have multiplayer? So there's two answers to that question, actually. It is a yes and no answer in some sense. Yes, it will support multiplayer, meaning that I will show you how to write the code to make it so that local multiplayer works. I don't necessarily want to do network multiplayer, and the reason for that is because I don't know if we'll have time to really do that. So if we were going to do network multiplayer, we'd actually do that as sort of like after the game is out, we'd add that as like a new stream that was like, here's how to do the networking or something. But local multiplayer we will definitely support. The reason I say no to multiplayer is because I don't know if the game design will support multiplayer. So you will be able to play it with multiple players at the same time, but we may disable that when we ship it if the design doesn't actually support it. Does that make sense? Because this is not really about game design, this is about game programming. So I'm going to show you the programming for sure. The design, I don't know. That may not happen. Can you please remove the return parentheses 0? No, I cannot. I like it there. When can we get some details on the actual game? Not until probably we're out of Windows and have a little bit of the rendering up and going. Because I want to focus on the platform stuff now, and when we actually start doing the game, I want that to be kind of a fun thing that we get to do after we worked through the Windows part of things. Why don't you just compile directly in Visual Studio? Because I don't like its editor is the entirety of the reason. I prefer to edit in Emacs, and I also find that if you learn to edit in Visual Studio, you end up with a problem when you want to go program on Linux or you want to go program on Mac, which is that Visual Studio isn't on those platforms. Emacs, on the other hand, is the same everywhere. So I can use the same editor on all the platforms, which I really like because it means that I'm super fast everywhere I go. I don't have to downshift because now I'm in Qt Creator and it doesn't work quite the same as Visual Studio or whatever. I like having the same editor on all the platforms. So one of the big things I look for in a text editor is that it has to run everywhere. Linux, Mac, Windows, at least. And if it doesn't, then I'm probably not interested. Let's see. How does it feel that you got more than 700 simultaneous viewers on the stream? That is stunning. I had no idea. I was not watching the numbers, but that's amazing. I don't know how I feel about that. That is crazy. I guess the main way I feel about that is I wish that we didn't have to do the first stream as a bunch of drudge work to get the build working. That's probably honestly how I feel about it. Tomorrow's stream I think will be a lot more fun because we'll be doing, you know, hey, we got a window up and running. Okay, we're drawing to the window. That's kind of more fun, right? But hey, what can you do? The main thing I'm trying to be in this series is honest. I'm doing absolutely everything exactly the way I actually do it. There's no lies in this stream. So I got to do what I got to do. The first day when I sit down in a machine and I don't have anything installed and I don't have anything set up, I got to put GNU Emacs on it. I got to put Visual Studio on it. I did those beforehand because I mean, you have to do like reboots and stuff to like install Visual Studio off and stuff like that. So I did those beforehand so they wouldn't interrupt the stream, but I had to go do the actual setup code. And, you know, is it that useful to people? Probably not. It's interesting perhaps for them to see how I do it, but yeah, I mean, none of it's really necessary for you to do. You can set up your development environment any way that you want, and I encourage you to experiment with other ways to find the way that you like best. But this is how I always set it up, and that's what I got to do when I start a new project. So, but now that it's done, don't have to worry about it again. So that's at least a good sign. You know, it's quick and it can be set up in an hour. So that's also good too. If we were to go the route where we used like Ninja to build things and CMake and all that stuff, we'd probably still be fussing with make files at this point because it would probably take 2 hours just to set up the build. So that is another good thing about using just a simple build.bat system is once you have build.bat going, you're kind of, you know you can quickly get building on any machine in a very short amount of time. How did you go from the exe built-in command line to using a visual debugger? So that's a good question, and I did show how it was done, but I didn't make a big deal of it. So I'm going to make a big deal of it now. And also, by the way, when you close Visual Studio, the first time you open it on an executable, it makes basically a phantom project a .sln for it, and when you exit, it's going to ask you if you want to save it. You do want to save it because that'll save all your settings for your debugging. So you do want to save that. And it'll ask you where. I'm going to put it in the build directory. I'm just going to leave it in there. And then we're out of Visual Studio. So the way that I did it, now if you remember, I said about that thing devenv, right? And devenv, it launches the debugger. It launches the IDE for us. So if you want to debug an executable, you can type devenv and then the name of the executable you are trying to debug. So I was trying to debug wbuild Win32 handmade. Boom, right? So that is all you have to do to get into debugging, is just that one line. That's it. And devenv is in the path if you've run that vcvars all thing that we did to set up. If CL is there, devenv should work as well, because that vcvars sets up the path to both of them. So anyway, this will do it. But once you've done that, you can actually go into Tools Options, and there's a startup in here. In environment, there's startup. And there's at startup load last loaded solution. You can set it to that. I don't think it's set to that by default, but you can set it to that. If you set it to that, then you never even have to do it ever again. You can just type devenv and it'll come up and already it'll just be with the thing. And you can just hit F11 to step in, right? Or F5 to run, right? Or any of that stuff. F9 to set breakpoints. It's good to go. So you don't have to really do any setup. You just devenv the executable, off you go. What GDB front end do you use on Linux? Qt Creator, but I really don't like it. Let's see. What else we got? What did you work on while working on Bink Video? I developed Bink, the second version of Bink, Bink 2, the one that's available now, that is used in games now. I was basically just the second programmer for Jeff on it for the first year and a half, I guess. I did all of the, I guess, all of the assembly code? I think I did all of the assembly code for the initial version, which was basically, which wasn't so much about optimization. I mean, there was optimization and stuff that we did, but it was mostly about getting stuff fast enough and being flexible with Jeff's changes. So Jeff would be like, we need to do this stuff to it, and I would I had a bunch of stuff that I made that would like generate assembly and do things. So it's basically about facilitating him as he sort of tuned the compression. And I also developed filters for him. So the filters that are used in there, I did. But after I was a consultant on that project, after I signed off on it, Fabian Giesen came on. He's an excellent programmer, and he's the guy who does that stuff now. And he really came in and he's the guy who did the tighten down the ratchet. He really came in and did all the going through every line and optimizing everything really well for every platform. So Bink 2's platform optimizations are probably pretty awesome right now because Fabian, he's real good, and it was in a good state when we did when Jeff and I did the first one. But I think after Fabian got done with it, I strongly suspect that it is pretty incredible right now. But that's just me. Let's see. As far as sound files go, are we going to be handwriting .wav and .mp3 loading functions? We're going to handwrite .wav. And I haven't decided yet how we're going to tackle compression. We are going to handwrite everything, so we're not going to use a library. So if we do something with compression, we're going to have to write it ourselves. At the very least, we'll be handwriting WAV, but that's very, very simple. You'll be shocked how easy it is to handwrite WAV. But when we go to actually ship the game, we're probably going to want compression, and so we will do something there. But I haven't decided what it is yet. That's a long, long ways away because that's like ship time stuff. So you don't have to worry about that anytime soon. We'll look at the chat for viewer answers while you work. I'm sorry, I don't know what that means. Please consider 5-hour streams. I can't. No one will be able to follow it. I'm sorry. We got to do an hour a night. I know it's painful, but I think you'll be surprised at how fast it goes. Like I said, I think we'll have some pretty graphics on the screen before Christmas. And that's pretty good. You'll be surprised how little work it is. Now, it's going to be a long time till we have a good game because there's a lot of code that goes into a good game. But just getting something up and running, the drudge work we did today is some of the most drudgy work we're going to do. Windows is going to go pretty fast, I think, and we'll have a nice little thing up and running where we can, move some sprites around. And then from there, we'll be able to start really coding the game, and it'll be good. So 5-hour streams aren't really that necessary. Yes, we could blast through a lot more of it a lot more quickly, but it would be a lot harder for people to follow. And the whole point of this thing is for people to follow it. So I really want to try and keep it to an hour mainstream a night. And if the Q&As get long, the Q&As get long. That's fine. But I want the mainstream to at least stay an hour's worth of coding on the game every night. If you can follow that, you can follow the series. Let's see. Is there a design document opinion on design docs? No, no. We are going to do what is basically design driven by awesome. And awesome in this case will be what we think will be the most interesting thing to code. So we are basically going to spend most of our time sitting around going, okay, we finished that feature. What would be the most interesting thing to try and code in this code base now? And if that's that everything needs to be lit on fire and the fire needs to catch on things, then we're going to implement that. If that's that we need to have like secrets that are hidden throughout things, then we're going to implement that. If that's that we need AIs that chase you across multiple screens and try to block your progress or things, then we're going to code that. So the game is going to all be about coming up with something awesome every time we finish an old thing and implementing that. And we will try to tune it so that it's a good game at the end of it, but the goal for the design is going to be to get everything in there that's cool, that is interesting to code. So we're really going to focus on having lots of really intricate gameplay things so that we can keep kind of pushing more and more stuff into that game core, and so that we can see how to keep it alive and keep it from crushing under its own weight, right? Which is a big problem that people have when they code things. So we're gonna really focus on that, kind of like how to add features, how to keep things nimble, how to write stuff that interacts well with the other aspects of the design. That's really going to be the focus. So yeah, that's basically what we're going to do. Let's see. Are we able to open source our own implementations? Might need some licensing clarity on this. I would prefer it if you didn't until I release the code into the public domain. So basically, I would like it if you keep your own implementations. Oh, well, I guess that depends what you mean by that. If you literally re-implemented the whole thing like using your own code and weren't just copying this code, maybe that would be fine. Either way, basically what I say is email me when you want to do that. Like email me first and ask me, because I would like the game to remain a commercial game for 2 years from ship. I would like that to be true. So basically what I would say is email me if you need to do something before then, if you really need to do something before then. Will you be using fixed point or floating point for audio representation in the game? Floating point. The spec is the reason the language works. I don't know who said that. I think they're laughing at it. But yes, I don't care about the spec at all. I only care about what compilers do. The spec is not relevant because the spec is only as relevant as what compilers actually follow. And so I pretty much try to do what compilers actually do. And if compilers do it, then I do it. And yeah, that's about all I have to say about that. Let's see. When we move past Windows stuff, will you be returning to developing on Linux, or are you going to stay on Windows for the bulk of the show? I will probably stay on Windows for the bulk of the show because its debugger is much better than any of the ones on Linux. Visual Studio is a much, much better debugger than any of the ones on Linux. If one of the newer debugger projects happens to come to fruition and is running on Linux during the stream, maybe we'll switch over there. But until Linux has a really good debugger, I wouldn't use that as the primary platform for demoing where we go through and we step through things. Will you be making a generic 2D animation system for rotating, scaling 2D sprites over time, along with an external editor for these animations? We will not use an external editor. We will not write an external editor. We'll probably use an existing editor like Spriter or something, but we will write a 2D animation system. How long after the stream each day is it going to take for the vid to be uploaded to YouTube? The vid is uploaded immediately, but YouTube takes a long time to produce the various compressions of it. So it usually takes several hours before before YouTube actually has like the 1080p stream up, for example. Sometimes it takes many, many hours for that. But Twitch instantly archives it, so you can go on Twitch under past broadcasts and see them right away. But those like disappear after a little while, so the YouTube is basically the backing archive because the Twitch only archives for like 2 weeks or something. Let's see. Do you have everything planned already, or are you coming up with ideas on a daily basis? I don't have everything planned. I have, I have a relatively full game planned, but that's just because I wanted to have something planned. It's very flexible, and like I said, we'll be trying to go driven more by what's going to be interesting to code. So I have a design that is what we'll start with, but we'll be free to kind of mutate it as we go and add interesting things as we go. Why don't I run Windows 8 8.1? I would turn that around and say, why would you run Windows 8 8.1? There is nothing that Windows 7 is not doing for me that Windows 8 does for me, so it doesn't seem particularly useful. OBS seems not to render some of the pop-ups that show in Visual Studio. Yeah, I'm worried about that, and what I would like to do is, I think because the series seems to be very popular already, I think what I'm going to do is try to order like some kind of external capture card so I can just capture the monitor and I don't have to worry about OBS missing stuff. Because yeah, it came up like tooltips don't show up either, apparently. At least that was something that was said in the live stream, so I worry about that. Let's see. How much emphasis on math and physics for the 2D game? Well, I'm not going to try. I'm going to try not to make it too terribly math heavy because it's more about code than about math. But there is a fair bit of math that has to happen for the code to work. So there's going to be, you're going to get a pretty good workout of your high school trigonometry at the very least, and you'll learn some linear algebra by osmosis. But we're talking really simple linear algebra here, like vectors. We're not talking about singular value decomposition. I recently looked at the Doom 3 source code and also at the id style guide. Do you have some guidelines for variable naming and stuff? No. I think you should name variables whatever it is that makes you the most comfortable reading them. The advice earlier was that you should look at the stream more frequently, or even better, get an intern to do it. I don't have an intern, but yes. That would be fun. I'm afraid I can't because I have to concentrate on what I'm teaching. But I try to basically say, hold everything for the Q&A. And if something, I realize that people are trying to sort of give me advice and stuff in the middle of the stream, but that's just price to do a business. If we do get an intern in here, maybe, but I don't know about that. Oh, do I know if I got the quality settings finally? Yes, I guess I did get quality settings. The Twitch upgraded us. Because of all of you, really. I'm sure it was because the stream was popular, so you made that happen. Twitch now apparently has quality settings on this stream. Not many people get that. I guess you have to be more popular or something. I don't know what it is. But so it's awesome. I'm super psyched that they did that. So thank you to all of you for making the stream popular, because I'm sure if we didn't have hundreds of viewers, they would not have done that. Any chance you could stream earlier? It's 5 a.m. here in Europe. No, unfortunately not. I have to pick a time, and that time is going to be problematic for people. Either people are going to be at work, or it's going to be too late, or they're going to be asleep, et cetera, et cetera. So we're doing 8 p.m. PST. That's just the way it is, and I apologize. I put all the videos up right away, so hopefully it's easy to keep up even if you're in a different time zone. And like I said, they're on Twitch immediately, so you can keep up that way as well. But I am going to try to do basically Fridays. I will do the stream at a different time or something. We'll try to pick like the best time that overlaps the least with 8 p.m. PST, basically, so that people who are in different time zones that are not fortunate, that don't fortunately coincide with 8 p.m. PST, can basically at least get on one live stream a week. That's the compromise that I kind of worked out in my head. I hope that's okay with people. Will you have an actual repo for the project? No, you will just basically get a zip file if you get the source that has a zip file in it for every day. So you can just go grab the day you want. And if you would like to make a repo for your own personal use, you can just use whatever source code control system you want and just unzip the contents over your existing directory and check it in. So you can basically just trivially automate the process of having your own repo in any source code control system you want. Which better Linux debugger projects are you looking forward to? Well, there's one called like ProDBG. I don't know if it's going to come to fruition or not, but there's that. And Rad and Valve are partnering to do one, and I don't know, which of those will come to fruition or how they'll go or any of that stuff. But if one of them does and it's good, then that's good. Windows 7 doesn't support AVX2. Well, most people probably aren't running AVX2, so I don't know that we should use that in our renderer. But yeah, it's true. We could We can consider that. I don't know. Are you sure there's not some way to get that to work, though? I don't know. Point being, we'll cross those bridges when we come to it. But that would probably be a weak reason to upgrade to Windows 8. Will sendal be the only method to download the daily commit or any chance of some type of repo? Sorry, I just answered that one. Would any scripting language be used in the game? No. Window capture doesn't capture since the right-click menus by default. Monitor capture should capture everything. But I am using monitor capture, and it doesn't seem to. I'll see if I can tweak the settings, but it doesn't seem to. Did I consider doing a Kickstarter for this series? I did not, and the reason was twofold. One, I had no idea this many people would be interested in it. So what I thought was going to happen was I was going to have to do the stream for 6 months, end up with a cool game at that point that was like, you know, still a ways away from being done, but that was obviously cool. And then people will go, oh, there's this cool game, I played it, and oh, by the way, the whole development was captured. So I could go watch it and learn how it was done, and that would be how people would get into it. I didn't realize that people would be so excited about doing it from the start. So there was that. So I was like, I don't know what I'm going to kickstart. I'm like, hey, let me kickstart this project that you don't even know the game, and I'm going to tell you you want to watch it being made. Like, I don't know. And I'm all into low-level game development, and I want to teach you all these crazy things, and everyone's going to be like, I just want to make a game in Unity, like, or whatever, right? So, you know, I didn't know. So I didn't do a Kickstarter for that reason. But the second reason was also, I just kind of wanted to do this as a project, and I felt really strongly about it. In fact, so strongly that I did it expecting that no one would watch it for 6 months. And because I felt so strongly about it, I didn't really want to do a Kickstarter because I felt like that would be somewhat disingenuous. A Kickstarter to me kind of says that I want money to do this project, and if I don't get the money, then I can't do the project or something. But the truth is, I was going to do this project whether I got money or not. It's like, I will pay for it out of pocket. I'll find a way, you know, I'll consult or do whatever. I'll make money to support it if I need to. But like, I'm going to do this project. So I felt like it would kind of be disingenuous to have a Kickstarter because it's like, this project is going to get made. And I don't, you know, expect you to fund it because I'm going to fund it. The fact that people have been so supportive of it and have been pre-ordering the source, a lot of people say just to support the project. Like, they're not even saying that they want to pre-order the game. They're like, I'm just doing this to support the project. I think it's a great idea. Has been amazing. Like, that's so incredibly cool. It's basically like I got a Kickstarter, you know, backing essentially because people were so generous. And that's amazing. And honestly, just the fact that people did that too makes me so excited about the stream because I feel like it's going to go so well now. I feel like we're going to get to these milestones, and like every week we're going to have something cool to show, and everyone in the stream is going to be pumped about it because it's like we only spent 5 hours on the stream and we've got this cool thing going, and then we spent another 5 hours, we got this new cool thing in, and every week there's going to be a new cool thing that everyone was part of and that everyone saw every last thing I did. I think that's going to be awesome, and so I'm so excited that all these people are excited about it and are watching and want to support it. It's just awesome. I'm really psyched. Quality seems worse today than yesterday. Is that because we have more watchers? I don't know. Maybe I need to upgrade my internet connection. Let me know if the quality degrades over time so we can sort of do something. I'd like to suggest an almond milk power-up for the game. All right, that's going in the notes. There will be an almond milk power-up in the game, period. Almond milk power-up. Done. Excellent, excellent suggestion. You could set up a poll to run for the week, letting viewers vote on the best time to stream on Fridays. We could do that. That is not a bad idea. I will write that down as well. I don't know if I want to do that because the problem too is that I work during the day, and so I might have to keep it to a regular schedule because I have to kind of schedule my work week to make it work, but I'll think about that. What do you think about learning math concepts by reading Wikipedia? I think it's horrible. I don't know why it's so bad. Wikipedia is a fantastic resource, and I love that site. But anytime I try to go there to read math, it's like the most dense, super antiseptic math, and like I can't even really learn from there. Like, I think you have to already know the math to understand the math on Wikipedia. You have to basically be a real math person. So, yeah, I wouldn't try to learn math from there. I'd try to find good books on the particular thing you're trying to read, trying to learn, because Wikipedia is hard. It's hard. Let's see. Is there a significant difference between the normal C code and an API that would interface with dedicated graphics cards? I'm sorry, I don't super understand that, Starchy Pancakes. Can you be more explicit? We are all excited that you're doing this in C. So am I. I love C. There'll be a little C++. We're going to compile as .cpps. So there'll be a little C++. We will probably use operator overloading and function overloading. I also use declare anywhere, but that's in C99 as well, I believe. So that's not really C++ anymore. It used to be. It used to be that C doesn't allow you to declare things other than at the start of a block. So, let's see. Would you be planning to get the Kickstarter as you're done with this halfway? I'm sorry, I'm not sure what that means. Edzwansha. Let's see. Orlando Bloom, I definitely purchased just to support the project, but there's a frowny face. Oh. I'm sorry. I didn't want you to frown about that. I hope you will smile. Oh, I see. You... Damn iPhone keyboard, you say. Okay, so maybe that wasn't supposed to be a frowny face. That was supposed to be something else. Okay, hopefully you're happy about pre-ordering. I guess you actually were. That's cool. Let's see. Just planting the seed. Super Handmade Hero, the 3D math and physics sequel. Yes. You know, I'm sure that when we get to the end of this, if for some reason people have watched a year or two of streams every night, and somehow what they want after that, they're like, you know what we need? Is another 2 years of streams. You know what? I'll be used to it, so I'm totally fine with that. And we can do 3D Handmade Hero after we do Handmade Hero because, yeah. I mean, honestly, that'd be the right time to do it because you need to learn all the... If you can't write a great 2D game, if you can't write a great 2D code base, forget writing a great 3D code base because 3D has a ton more math and a ton more moving parts in it, right? So the right way to do it anyway is write a great 2D game, then write a great 3D game, for sure. And so even if we were going to tackle 3D, we would do it this way anyway. We'd just say we're going to do 2D first, and then we're going to do 3D, because you got to learn the 2D before you learn the 3D. You got to, because 3D is just a superset, basically. So, could you consider dropping the frame rate a bit? I don't know if we need 60 frames a second. I don't set the frame rate, do I? I will look into that. Frame rate setting. If I set it, I would be happy to drop it to 30 because, yes, we don't need 60. Let's see. While we're at it, let's have a wrist glove power up. At the risk of giving too much away, well, you know what? I'm not going to give too much away. I'm just going to skip that question for now. Can you recommend some good books tutorials? No, unfortunately. That is why I even did that Intro to C stream as the test stream, because like I don't even know where to point people to learn C. The original K&R book, the C programming language, is probably the right place to learn it. But like I made the intro stream because I was like, you know what? If people don't know any C at all, you know, they only know like JavaScript or Java or something or Python, I'm like, I don't know what to tell them to use for a prerequisite. I'm going to be on the stream going, well, if you don't know what a pointer is, then go read. So I did that Intro to C stream just so you could kind of see stuff, pun intended. You know, that you could kind of go and watch the Intro to C stream and kind of get C as opposed to whatever programming language you're used to, you know, whatever it is that you know how to make, C# or whatever. And you could just kind of see me go through the basics of it, the really, really basics, to kind of bring you up to speed on that. So hopefully that helps. But you know, if people send in good references, I can try to post them later if there turns out to be good ones. When you did that struct instead of class, was it because you were calling the file CPP instead of C? Guitarm87, I'm not sure I understand what that means. Just to be clear, I mean, this is off topic a little bit, but it'll only take a few seconds. And I planned on doing a long Q&A tonight because I figured people would have a lot of questions on the very first stream, even though all we did was set the bit environment, I figured people would just get the questions out of the way. So struct, if you define something, is basically lets me put some stuff together that I want to allocate together in memory, basically. I want to talk about together in memory. If I say struct foo, that just says I need, you know, I covered this in the intro stream, but that just basically says I'm going to create a new type that is basically a composite of other types, right? And they're laid out sequentially in memory, X, then Y, then Z. But I guess the person is asking, what's the difference between the class and the struct, and why do you type one or the other? Well, the answer is largely it's just whatever your convention is. In C and C++, class, well, actually there is no class in C, but in C++, there is no difference between class and struct. The only difference is whether things default to being private or public. So there's these access control specifiers, which we will never be using in this stream, called public and private, and they basically have to do with who can access the variables. You will never see us do one in the stream, so it's not really relevant to this, but basically the difference is in a struct, everything defaults to public. So a struct is essentially this, right? Struct foo is the same as class foo public. And by inversely, I guess I should say, struct foo private is the same as class foo. But there's no other differences really. That's really the only main difference between the two things. You can freely switch between them. They're not actually different in practice. The compiler does the exact same thing with them. So it's really just whether it defaults to public or defaults to private. That's it. Since I want everything to be public, I always type struct. If you wanted everything to be private, you should type class. That's it. That's all. I guess what I'm wondering is how the implementation of the running code would change in taking advantage of dedicated graphics as opposed to using the CPU. Well, we'll get there, but basically what we do is we write the renderer in such a way that all the stuff we want to leverage with the GPU is underneath a certain API barrier, and so we can later just vector those API calls over to the GPU instead of to the CPU, basically. That's all we're going to do. It's pretty straightforward, actually, you'll see. Guitarm87, make a constructor struct. Yes, you can make constructors and structs. There's no difference between a class and a struct. Just trust me on that one. They're exactly the same. It's just whether it defaults to public or private. Garlando Bloom, I'm happy about pre-ordering definitely. Even if the game's crappy, this is going to be awesome to watch. Thank you. Okay, good. I just want to make sure there were no frowny faces. Earlier you told us you're not planning to make the Kickstarter since you don't like the idea of getting crowdfunded by something that you can't show and work as you go. So why not, when you're halfway through, and show what you've done, get the Kickstarter started? Oh, okay. Well, I don't think I need the Kickstarter. Like I said, it's got that pre-order button. Lots of people, did the pre-ordering. I mean, I'm not greedy. I don't need a Kickstarter as well. If you want to support the product, you can click on that, and that is great support for me. So I don't think I need a Kickstarter in addition to it, because I think, especially also as the game gets cooler and cooler, people will just want to pre-order the game who aren't even watching the series or something. So, I don't know. I'm hopeful that we can just fund it through that, basically, and that will be a reasonable source of funding for me doing the project and me paying the artist to do art for the project and licensing the music and so on. If it turns out that I'm broke and I can't, then sure, I'll go to Kickstarter and ask for money. But until then, I'd like to just go with the pre-orders and see if that works. Are you planning to have descriptive names for the YouTube archive videos? Yes. Well, names maybe not. I try to put some things in the description, but I'm going to separate them into playlists, basically. Because, like, for example, this one might be named because it's just how to set up the build on Windows. But then we might take 4 or 5 days to do the Windows code, so I might make a playlist called, like, Making the Windows Code, right? And whether each of those things will be named, I'm not sure, but I'll try. Looks like it was already 30 FPS. Someone earlier was complaining and said it was 60 FPS. Sorry. Oh, yeah. Okay. So we were already 30 FPS. Okay. So there's nothing I can do. Sorry. We're already 30 FPS. That's as low as it's probably going to go. Since you're in the mood to deny us any spoils, what's up with the Handmade Hero icon on the Twitch page? Tell me, elaborate more. What do you mean, what's up with it? Garlando Bloom. I learned a lot from the intro streams, even though I programmed in C++ for several years and halfway made a game using OpenGL and all. That is awesome. I'm really glad to hear that. That is cool, because that's exactly the stuff I want to bring to the stream. I want you to see stuff in the stream that you don't see anywhere else. I want it to be all the kind of minutia, like professional game dev stuff that people gloss over. And more importantly, I also want to show the mistakes. Capturing the mistakes is really important to me. I want you to see me mess up and to see how I recover from those mess ups. Because that's one of the biggest things that gets left out of a lot of teaching materials is they just show you the finished thing. They're like, here's how I think you should write blah. But they didn't show you the steps that got you there, So if I just show up and say, hey, here's this cool game, it's got all these cool features in it, and here's how to write it. Well, that's not that interesting because you didn't see all the iterations I had to go through to get that code to that point. And that's a huge part of game development. No professional game developer sits down and writes the right code for their game the first time, ever. Never happens. The only time that can happen is if you wrote the exact same game before. So what I really want to show on this stream is me trying things. So, okay, we wanted to implement fire. Here's how we implemented fire the first time. But then we found it didn't work as well because of this, and it was a little messy. It didn't work well with this system. So we changed the way we did fire, and we went through several iterations, and eventually, you know, down the line, we've got a really cool system for handling fire or something, right? That's the kind of thing that I really want to show in the stream, because I think that's the part that really like kind of levels you up into a better developer, is knowing how to do those iterations right and recovering from your failures. It's like, it's way more important to be able to recover from a failed architecture attempt than it is to get the architecture attempts right the first time, because nobody ever gets to that point, usually. Nobody ever gets to the point where they're doing the architecture right the first time. And even if they were, that probably means they're not really doing that good at architecture, because usually every time I write new stuff, I come up with better things every time, because I learned from the last time. And so it's always good to just keep be iterating, keep be thinking, rethinking how you're going to do things. Okay. Are you going to be ditching pound include windows.h? Maybe. I don't want to give away too many secrets there, AndyBoy223. How often do you need to hit the debugger? Do you rely on it a lot for your coding style? All the time. I just run in it. So every time I want to run the program, I Alt-Tab and I run it under the debugger. How often I actually debug depends on how intricate the code is and how many bugs I got, basically. Yeah. I noticed you scoped the for loop in some of the code that ran by. Why do you scope the for loop the way you do? That is in one of the intro stream Q&As, if you would like to look at it. That's a Muratori for syntax. I'm going to try not to use that actually on the stream. It's antiquated, and it's something that only I ever did. It's an anachronism that was for handling GCC and MSVC cross-compatibility back in 1996. Microtransactions are all the rage. Need to add a couple of those. I totally agree. I would never actually implement a game with real microtransactions because I think they are a really bad way to treat your players. But I would certainly put in joke microtransactions, so we can certainly think about that. Let's see. Will the game have 2D lighting? Yes, it will. Can you do the whole game with test-driven development? No. Because games are not really very amenable to test-driven development. Some things we will be able to drive by tests, but most things we won't, because they involve user input, and user input is very difficult to do in a test-driven way. You can do fuzz testing, and you can do randomized input testing, and those are good ideas, but unit testing is very hard in those circumstances. Will there be an option to pre-order for a friend as a gift? I don't know. I will ask Sendowl. They do the order processing, and I'm not a web guy, so I don't know how to do half that stuff. So I'll ask them, and we'll see. Are there differences between C structs and C++ structs? Yes, there are. C++ structs can do everything that C++ can do in a class, because like I said, they're the same. So it can have member functions, it can have public-private declarations, it can have overloaded stuff, it can do anything it wants. In C, none of that stuff exists, so you can't do those things. There's no public and private in C, I don't think, unless they added it in C99. There didn't used to be. So C++ structs have a lot more stuff you can do in them than C structs. We won't really be using any of them, but you can if you just want crazy stuff. When does the sheet behind you turn green? Yeah, I need a green screen, that's true. We should have just hung a green screen up there so I can appear like I'm in some crazy tropical locale. You're working with an artist already, but what about sound effects and music? Are you going to leave sound alone for a long time? No, sound will come in right away. I will record it on my little pocket recorder for sounds for stand-in until we have the game, closer to finished and we want to ask for final sounds. And music I already licensed, so music will go in right away as well. As soon as we have sound playing, we'll have music playing. Let's see. If you have this much viewers on a regular basis, you'll soon have a subscribe button partnership with Twitch, which will give you some cash too. I don't know anything about that. I don't understand any of this streaming stuff. I only just set it up because it seemed like what people could use, and I really wanted people to be able to watch live. I thought that would be a cool thing to be able to do. So I don't know anything about Twitch subscriptions. Since you've said you aren't a game designer, how do you plan to design a good game from this? Well, basically, I'm not ignorant of how to design games. Like, I talk to my friends who are excellent game designers all the time. I understand the things they're talking about. I understand the basic mechanics of game design. So I will be able to design a traditional game just fine. Like, I'm sure I can handle a game that is not avant-garde, right? So I'm not going to try and make a game that is like, oh, it's the emotional journey of someone is told through the eyes of their pet goldfish who got cancer recently and had to go to a thing, but it's really a dream sequence, and at the end you realize something about, you know, your sexuality or something. Like, those are like super advanced game designy sorts of things that people are doing nowadays, where they're like trying to talk about like basically doing more high concept stuff in games. And I don't have the skill set at all to do any of that stuff. Like, I'm not good at it, and I don't really know how to do that sort of stuff. So if you want me to design like a game that's different from traditionally how games have worked, that's really not something that I'm going to be able to do, right? So I'm intentionally staying away from that. Our design will be very, very traditional. It will be a game where, you know, you go off on an adventure where there are monsters who try to stop you, and, you know, you adventure around and find cool things. That is, you know, the extent of the high concept for this game. So it will be more like, you know, you were playing an old school console game with the old little paddles, where there weren't like cutscenes trying to tell like a story to you or things like that. So that's basically what I mean by the game design. So I am not a professional game designer, and I don't want to take on the responsibility of trying to show how to make a new great game design that no one's ever done before, because I just don't have the qualifications for that. I would love to see someone do that stream. I am very interested in new types of games. I like it when people, like, I really liked, you know, I was saying, like, I liked Starseed Pilgrim a lot. It was pretty cool. And you know, I really like kind of wacky games and stuff like that that do interesting things. So I would love if people made streams where they taught game design, because I could learn from that. But I can't do that. Like, I don't have the capability to do that. So let's see. You probably already answered this, but why start from scratch versus using an engine? Why reinvent the wheel? It's a good question. And the answer is twofold. One is because I think it's important for game developers who are going to be serious programmers to learn everything about how a game works. And if you start with an engine, then it basically changes what you're learning from the fundamental truth of how to implement a game to someone else's version of that. They have basically gone from what the actual game code actually does and put a big old giant layer in between you and that. So now what you're really learning is that engine. You haven't learned how to make games. You've learned how to make games in Unity, right? And if Unity were to disappear, for example, you would no longer know how to make a game at all. I'm not exaggerating this, that's just the truth. And so while there's nothing wrong with making games in engines, because that may be the most efficient way for you to make the thing that you want to make, I don't think you can have a complete game development education as a programmer without learning how everything works right down to the core principles that have been true for the past several decades. That's how a CPU runs a game. And so I think those are essential to learn, and I wanted to show them. So if people want to use engines, that's totally fine. But that is the opposite of what I'm trying to show here. I want to show how all that stuff works, and I want to give people the ability to make their own engine stuff as necessary as well. Because even if you go use an engine like Unreal or something to make a game, knowing how all of it works underneath makes you so much more powerful even in that engine. Because now it means you don't just have to look at the docs and guess how the thing kind of is doing it. You know how the thing really works. And so you can go, oh, I know there must be a way for Unreal to do X, Y, Z, because I know that's how the CPU works and I know it can do it. So let me go find how to do that, or write my own plugin that can do that for me. And now you're so much more powerful. You don't have to be like hamstrung by the things that they allowed you to do in that sort of layer, right? So it's empowering, it's educational, that's all good. But the second thing I wanted to point out is saying reinvent the wheel is a very misleading statement. And it always bothers me a little bit when people say things like, why reinvent the wheel? And the reason is because the wheel is an amazing invention. It is almost perfect, or even possibly perfect, for what it does. When you look at a wheel, it is the thing that perfectly turns dynamic friction into static friction for moving objects, right? It's something that is so elegant and beautiful that if you asked me why you would want to reinvent it, I would say, of course you don't want to reinvent the wheel. The wheel is amazing. It has worked for thousands of years. It has been unchanged for thousands of years. The concept is the same today as it was when they first made a wheel, probably, right? It does exactly the same stuff physically. Nothing we have developed in the past 30 years of game development is a wheel. We do not have a single wheel. If you think Unity is a wheel or you think Unreal is a wheel, that is it's just plain short-sighted. Like, I'm sorry, but that's the truth. In the future, we will have so much more powerful tools for game development that they will make the engines we use today look like a joke. People will laugh at the things that we did to make games today. And the reason that I point that out is not to diss on those things, because they are the best engines we have today. So yes, if you need to use an engine, you want to use some of these things, right? But I want to point out the fact that if we want to get to a real wheel, that when you really do say to me, why would you reinvent the wheel? I would say, you shouldn't. Use the wheel. If we want to get to that wheel, we need people making new things that attempt to be a wheel. And you can't do that if all you know how to do is program stuff in Unreal or Unity, because that's all you get. That's the square wheel, right? That's kind of clunking around. And if all you're ever going to do is build cars on top of that, they're going to be lousy, right? Unless you're driving on a road that looks like this. So basically what I want to inspire to as part of this series, if I can, is I want people to look at this and go, hey, wait a minute. Low-level game programming is not that hard. I saw him do it. I saw how he did it. And I'm starting to understand this. I could go do this. And if they get into it and get excited about it, then they may be the people who make those next engines that allow a whole new wave of game development to happen. Just like Unity allowed so many more people to make games who didn't have that knowledge, who's going to be making those things of the future, right? And so that's why I think low-level programming is so important, is because we need lots of people with those talents and those skills to get us to the point where it really is silly to be working on it anymore. But we are so far from there, trust me. Let's see. The stream is going to happen every weekday at the same time. Aid, can you name a subreddit? Can you name the subreddit as the official community hub or set up an official forum? So if you have a good idea of how to do an official forum, you are welcome to email me. I was trying to figure out how maybe that should happen, but I couldn't figure out a good place I could maybe pay to host it or something where it wouldn't just get all spammed up. I've had bad experiences with forums where they take a lot of maintenance work and spammers start registering on them and stuff like that. And so if there really is a way to set up a reliable forum that people can use that won't get all spammy, please email me. You can use the button on the handmadehero.org website and email me, because I would be interested in setting up a forum eventually, yes. Let's see. To all the people who are saying thank you and saying that they learned more in their university, thank you. Thank you for tuning in. Teaching is very important to me. I love doing it. I love explaining things. It's a lot of fun. And the fact that people are listening to it and getting something from it makes it so much more rewarding for me. Like, I really can't thank you enough. So thank you very much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. You do not need to thank me. I am having a blast, and just the knowledge that people are starting to see this stuff and get into it is everything that I wanted to have happen. So like this series, you are making this series a success before it has even gotten off the ground, and for that I am so grateful. So yes, thank you very much to all of you. Let's see. Can you explain your choice to mix in C++? Why not code with just C or pure C++? I'm not sure what pure C++ is, since C++ is just C with stuff added on top of it. So there's really no such thing as pure C++. Obviously, there is such a thing as pure C, which is just C or C99 without any of the C++ additions. The reason that I didn't want to do that is because there are some features of C++ that I like, such as operator overloading for math and function overloading. I like those two. I use them fairly frequently, and I don't see a really good reason not to use them. Especially because if one were writing a compiler to compile Handmade Hero, they don't take much effort to support. So if you were trying to write a compiler from scratch that can compile Handmade Hero, which is a project that I would love to do in the future, and maybe that'll be some kind of separate stream as well, or who knows, maybe I'll tie into what John's doing, for example, if those of you who have been keeping up with Jonathan Blow's making a new language, which is super awesome. Basically I didn't feel like those features would be additional things. If I started using like templates and stuff like that, those start to add a lot of complexity to your language. And so there are, you could see why if you really wanted to use those, you might say, oh, maybe I won't use those because it'll keep it simpler. But overloaded operators and overloaded functions are really easy to implement in a language if you've already implemented the basics of C that you need to compile it. So I didn't see any reason to go pure C because I'm not sure what the benefit would be. All C compilers are C++ compilers at this point. So it's, LLVM, which is what we'll be using on the other platforms. It's way better than Visual Studio. So Visual Studio is our baseline for C++ compliance, and it's way more than what we need. So I figured just compiling in CPP was better in general because it meant that we could use some of those extra features without actually incurring any complexity for people who want to play with the source code later in a way that would require them to be able to parse it and handle advanced features. Are you a tool that converts almond milk into code? On the stream I am. I don't actually... I actually convert almond milk into streams. Normally during the day I do drink almond milk out of these same bottles like this, but I drink it much less frequently. The reason I do it here is to keep my voice from going. It just helps me not get laryngitis on the stream, basically. Is there a game dev company that you really admire? In other words, a game company you think makes great games the right way? If not, do you have at least a favorite game? I don't know. I mean, I haven't worked at many game companies, really. I mean, I worked at Rad for a long time, and that's a game tools company. I like Rad. I mean, they're a good company. That's why I worked for them for so long. So they're a good company. But for game companies, I don't know. I'm not really in a position to say. I'd have to go work at a lot of different companies and really judge their processes, I guess. But also, the other thing is, developing games the right way is just developing games that ship reliably and aren't buggy and are performing well. I mean, the proof is always in the pudding. So anyone who's been out, any company who's been out there and is shipping games reliably is doing something right. And that's an important thing to keep in mind. A lot of people get hung up on sort of demagoguery and like, what's the right way to do this and the right way to do that? Well, the right way is the way that gets things done efficiently, as on time as possible, in a way that keeps people's morale up. If you can get that to work, then you're doing something right. And so I'm not really in a position to say one way or the other, and especially since I tend to do my own projects a lot of the time, I don't know a lot about working with large teams or that sort of stuff, because that's a whole nother complexity right there. There's a lot of communication things that have to happen there and stuff that has nothing to do with the code. So yeah, so I would say I don't really have much of an answer for you. I apologize. Let's see. I think we're getting to the end of the questions. From your point of view, where do you think most of your viewers come from? I have no idea. I have no idea. I suspect that some of the retweets that I got helped a lot. Like Jonathan Blow retweeted me, and a lot of game developers follow him, obviously. Somebody with like 300,000 followers retweeted me. They were someone who was like an author or something, who I didn't know, but retweeted me. Apparently, like some kind of O'Reilly newsletter had it, Hacker News had it. So I feel like maybe just people were getting the message out because I guess they were excited about the concept. People were like getting the word out, and I guess that just cast a wide enough net that a lot of people decided to come check out the series. I don't know anything more than that. One of the things that I'm intentionally not doing is I try very hard not to look at how many people have pre-ordered. I try very hard not to look at any statistics. I don't even collect statistics on the website of any kind. No analytics. I don't even keep a weblog. And the reason for that is because I just want to do this stream because I'm excited about doing the code and teaching it. And I feel like if I start trying to think about, like, am I reaching an audience and how do I get more viewers and all that stuff, then that's like, it turns it into some kind of bad social media thing for me. And I don't want to do that. So I can't give a very good answer because I really don't know. And basically I just see what I see on the Twitter stream and that's all I really know. And I don't really want to go find out because I'm afraid that it'll start to ruin it a little bit for me if I try to start thinking about this as trying to be some kind of Web 2.0 popularity thing instead of just doing it because it's, you know, awesome to code and I want to share that with people. So I really want to keep that genuineness as much and as long as possible. And part of that kind of unfortunately means I'm going to remain fairly ignorant about even who is watching, let alone how they found out about it. SDL versus SFML. I do not know what that means. Is that simple direct media layer? I like that Matt Cornell has beeped the mega timer. This is a very long Q&A session. They often won't be that long, but since this was the first stream, I want to do an extra long one. So you're right, it is mega timer. Let's see. Looks like we are basically done. I'm at the end of the Twitch questions. Of course, there's a lag, but at some point I gotta call it. So it's 10:30. We've gone like a full hour of Q&A basically. A little more than an hour even. So thank you so much for staying for the Q&A. I really hope that even though today's was not the most exciting part, certainly, of this series, that you are excited enough to come back tomorrow and see us get our window up and our rendering started, which is what we will be doing tomorrow. So if you are in the mood for some more Handmade Hero, 8 p.m. PST tomorrow, I will be right here casting. We usually start between 15 and 30 minutes early. We don't actually do any of the stream at that time, but I usually have the stream up and I'll talk to people on the chat. So if you just want to chat or something, we'll be there and we kind of let people sort of filter in at that point. So if you want to come a little early, you can catch that. Otherwise, I will see you at 8 p.m. tomorrow. Thank you so much for everyone for tuning in and have a great rest of your evening.